not the entire model, but wants to take
Mhm.
pieces from that. So I think, in some respect, Vanderbilt would like to play Wake Forest and the Wake Forest of the world to say, hey, look, this is sort of the trajectory we want to go on. These are the type of opponents we want to play to see how, we can match up and how we can level up against those guys. So, Clark Lee is such a competitor. I don't think he's one to manipulate schedules and say, where can we get a win there? Where can we get a win there? It's one of those put the ball down whenever, wherever, we'll go play whomever. I just kind of think that's the type of competitor he is.
Were you surprised he named Mike Wright the starting quarterback to start the year?
Not particularly. I mean, the way Mike Wright played in the second half of 21, the offseason he had, the type of leader he is. And I think he delved into this at media day. I think it kind of lights a fire under the rest of the quarterback room and the rest of the offense, right? And let's be honest, just because Mike Wright is named starter on here we sit July 20th doesn't mean he'll take the field as the starter August 27th at Hawaii. I mean, we've got a whole fall camp to play. Maybe they use two quarterbacks. Maybe A.J. Swann, the heralded freshman, has a great fall camp and bumps his way up the depth chart. I wouldn't read too much into it. I mean, Mike Wright is a fantastic kid. He was a winner in high school at Woodward Academy, going back to Georgia high school football.
Mhm.
He's an outstanding kid, and I think to his credit and to Ken Seals' credit, they haven't backed down from the challenge. I don't think Mike Wright's going to be complacent. I don't think Ken Seals is going to go down without a fight, so to speak. So it's out there. Let's run with it and see what happens, and let's see. Best man wins come fall camp. Again, starting quarterback battles. I know they get a lot of attention in August and July, but to me, it's who finishes that year at quarterback, right? Not necessarily who starts it and who's able to kind of take the reins of the offense in the team and lead them to success.
How much was it on just because this was something interesting that people may have missed with Vanderbilt was just the offensive coordinator change, right? And Ken Seals, the situation that he was in. Like, how much of his issues last year were circumstantial versus what he actually brought to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors there. I mean, I think for those who don't know, David Wright was brought in as
Mm,
offensive coordinator, and somewhere in fall camp they thought, all right, well maybe Joey Lynch would be better suited to call plays. So it sort of became a excuse me symbiotic relationship between David Wright and Joey Lynch, kind of working that playbook. Ken Seals had input, the offensive line and the offensive line staff had input. But then, Ken Seals also had a finger injury, that was
mm,
hard to overcome for him going into that South Carolina game. So I think you throw all those things in, and you got to remember that Ken Seals started, in 2020, went through a winless season, for a coach who was let go at the end as a true freshman. And I just think he's had a lot kind of thrown on his shoulders and his plate. And to his credit, has really, stood up to the task at all points. So I think you got to remember he's had some different offensive coordinators. He's had different head coaches. He's gone through a COVID season. He's gone through a winless season. And yet he still had some pretty remarkable plays and still a lot of memorable plays and put up some decent numbers. So, that kid is still growing. He's still going to improve. But I think it's kind of, I don't know if it's a blessing in disguise for the Commodores to have Mike Wright come in and be as successful as he was, because now they got, two kids back there who honestly can come in and make plays and move the ball down the field. To me, it's just a matter of who can do it right consistently, game after game, play after play, quarter after quarter, to lead the Commodores to success. And knowing Ken and knowing his spirit and his competitiveness, I don't think anything that's happened to him in the past is going to make him go in a downward trajectory. If anything, I think it's going to make him, kind of improve and be a better person.
Why do you think AJ Swann ultimately chose Vanderbilt?
I just think he probably saw what a lot of other commits and recruits see in Vanderbilt. They have a second-year head coach. They're building a new stadium. I should say a refurbished stadium, not a new stadium, right?
Mm,
Putting a lot of money into the program, believes in what Clark Lee is selling. So I don't think he's a whole lot different, than a lot of other Commodores who committed to this class who really want to be a part of something new and try to build something new and a different Vanderbilt, moving forward. Plus, I think a lot of kids, when you talk to them as recruits, they love Nashville. You can't get too
mhm.
much in Nashville and the way it's growing. And you look at a AJ Swann kid from, Georgia and Metro Atlanta area, right? I mean, he's gonna know what it's like to play in a big city and have his name up there on billboards and stuff. So I think all that kind of plays into it, and I think he's going to relish the opportunity to come in and compete, and maybe in the future be the face of Vanderbilt's offense.
What would you? I mean, it's hard to forecast now, but do you think Clark Lee and the new offensive staff, they strike you as a bunch that would be willing to roll with AJ Swann for the majority of the season if he's impressing enough, and just to be like, hey, I like the veterans, we like Mike Wright, we like Ken Seals, but AJ's just better and he gives us a better chance to win? Would they be willing to do that? Because that's the new thing with the transfer portal, right? Is like, you have to be careful with how you navigate these quarterback rooms and how you navigate just, are we going to, like, you had the all-time big version of this spring was Dave Aranda with Gary Bohannon, where he was like, look, this guy behind you is better and we're rolling with him, but I will help you get on with somebody else. And now he's at South Florida. He should start there, and he's got a good opportunity. But if you roll with somebody like AJ Swann earlier than you may want to, just because he is the best player in fall camp, and you're like, I mean, he is a true freshman, 4-star kid from Cherokee, but man, that means there's going to be some hurt feelings here between those two. And you can really only have one backup, and then that complicates stuff. So you think that's like part of what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, not to sound, brainwashed with coach speak, but I mean, they're going to go with the kid that gives them the best chance to win and for the offense to be successful. And if that's AJ Swann or Mike Wright or Ken Seals, that'll be the guy. I don't think, Vanderbilt's staff and offensive staff is going to be in the business of, just appeasing egos, right? I mean, they're just going to, whoever's best for the job is going to play. If that's AJ Swann 3 games in, it'll be AJ Swann. If AJ Swann sits this year and takes a red shirt, that's what'll happen too. I don't think they're going to play, just throw AJ in there just because, oh, well, chalk it up. We'll see what happens. AJ Swann will play if they think he's the guy to get it done. I just think that, having been around this staff and been around this program the last year and a half, last 2 years, that's just kind of the way they operate. You've seen that last year with other positions, whether it be cornerback, or running back. I mean, Patrick Smith came in at running back last year and got a ton of carries. Some of that was due to injuries, but the kid was performing in practice and fall camp and into the season, and he got a lot of playing time. So, I just think, again, it'll be a situation where if the other two guys, if Mike Wright comes in is not getting it done and Ken Seals comes in and isn't getting it done, they'll give the ball to AJ and see what he can do. And if he gets it done, he'll be the guy.
It should be fun. Like, that's a good problem to have, is 3 guys that you're like, hey, we'll see what happens. They offer different stuff. And, Clark Lee will have his, this is a pretty solid quarterback room going into fall camp. Somebody who I think a lot of folks may not be familiar with yet, but will be familiar with is Jayden McGowan. What can you tell us about him and how much of an impact he will have right away?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that kid is really, really explosive. I mean,